Hi, I'm Karen Stafford with Dr. Stafford's Musical Cures, and I'd like to talk about one of my favorite technology tools that I used when I was teaching, and that's the SeeSaw online portfolio, which is fabulous for distance teaching. Your students can video themselves, they can leave audio recordings, they can assess each other and be able to leave constructive comments. Families can see what their children are doing. You can leave comments. There's drag and drop options for assessment. You can use links. It's really terrific. So let's check this out and see. First of all, here it is. SeeSaw can allow your students to videotape themselves, record themselves. You can upload images of worksheets for them to complete. You can upload PDFs of instructions. You can add links to YouTube videos so they can do journaling. You can have families who see their child's work. You can even choose to set up an online blog of your students' best work. So let's say we're getting ready to start. You would probably start when you signed up. If you've never done it before, you click I'm a teacher and you fill in all your information, and then you can choose whether to use your own email to log in or set up with Google if you are a Google school. It's asking me to sign in again, so here I go. All right, you see I already have a class that's called Demos, which is what I use for workshops and everything. But let me walk you through this whole thing. One of the nice features that I'll show you in a minute is the home learning code, which you can use at the last minute if your students have to work from home. But let me show you what's here. Right here is where you add classes, create classes. This is the name of your school, which I just transferred my information from my old school. Here's where you can have a scan QR code if you decide to set up a QR code for yourself. I'm going to create a new class. So I'm going to go in and call this class Cool. You also notice that you can import a class from Google Classroom. I want to say they're 6th grade, even though my sample activity is way easier than 6th grade. So now I'm set up, and look at this. You even get a video that's going to show you how you can get set up and see some of the different things that you can do. Also on this side, get rid of myself here, is how you set up your settings and different information about your device and where you can go to get support and important things when you're involved with school is their privacy statement. And that's one thing that I really, really like about SeeSaw is the privacy issue. All right, let's check out the wrench, because the wrench is where you control your students and your families. So first of all, you can add students by hand. And if you do that, well, it's not really by hand. They have to add themselves. You can choose to have the students sign in to SeeSaw using their Google account. So when you click on yes for that, the first time they sign into their particular class, they're going to have to type in a code. And you notice that there has an expiration on it. So if you get a new student later, they may have to type in an entirely different code. So don't tell the kids this is your code forever and ever. They change it every 7 days. So your kids can't go in and see somebody else's class. So let's say you have a student who's in 2 different classes. Let's say you've got your 6th grade class, or your 6th graders in an after-school group. They would get an entirely different code just to sign in. You can also email the students with instructions. So again, in case they have to go home they can get that from home. But let's say you don't want to use Google because you've got shared devices, students by hand. And if they have shared devices, they can scan a QR code in daily. That way, they're not getting on somebody else's information. So you put this up on the wall. When they come in, they just scan it. You can manage teachers by adding a teacher and inviting them. And depending on the plan that you have, the Pro plan, I believe, lets you get up to 5 teachers that's sharing your class. The free plan allows you to add another teacher. You can change the class theme. That's always fun. You can have an icon. You can upload an image to an icon. Or we're just going to pick on the saxophone because that's cool. Now, again, here's the shared devices one that you had to choose. So you're using the QR code. Here's how you can manage your students. You can add a student by hand. You can paste a list of students, remove students. Now, home learning student codes, you can print or download where they can complete the activities and view their journal. It generates new codes, and the existing codes will still work. But that's more if they don't have their device and they need to get on at home. Now, students can like other people's comments. You can enable students to make comments, which I did because I like for students to learn how to critically assess and help their classmates. But I would always require approval for a comment because some were just no. And then I'd have a talk with them. So you can change all those settings. You can enable family access. So you can invite families. And generally what happens when you invite families, and since I only have a sample student, it's not showing up, but it will generate a letter that you can print, but it's a letter, each letter with your particular student and that individual code for that student. So the parents can't look at somebody else's information. And here's where you can enable the blog. And you can set up the blog, which I never did, but you can investigate that. And this is a nice feature. You can set up folders. You see I set up a solfege folder for your different objectives. And then all the activities that go with that objective, you just file away. If you have at least the Pro plan, you can manage skills so that you can set up various skills. And then under those skills, you can rate them. When I was teaching, they did the 1 to 4, but now they've changed it, and 3 is a little bit more positive. But I made it equivalent to the grading scale that we used because we used performance-based objectives and the grading scale. But I think you really want to get to the activities. So let's see what we're going to give my sample student. Now we're ready to create an activity. This one is going to be a drag and drop, which is a fairly new feature for SeeSaw. I'm going to drag and drop pitches to the staff with do, mi, so, and la. So I'm going to click Add, Assign Activity. By the way, the community activities are wonderful. You can put in, let's say, 6th grade and music. These have all been contributed by other teachers, and you're able to just go ahead, open those up, share them, and use them with your own teachers. Terrific stuff right in here. But you're ready to make your own. So this is my library. going to create new activity, and we're going to call it Pictures on the Staff. Do, me, so, and la. And for the sake of time, I'm going to be not very fast here, but not going to put too much on here. So first of all, I'm going to say, listen to the recording, because I'm going to be making a recording of a melody pattern, melody fragment, that the kids are supposed to echo back and notate. Listen to the recording. And then they have to click a little X to get out. When they first open it up, they're going to see the actual template. And at the top is going to be instructions to go see the instructions, and then they'll make it back to the template. Listen to the recording. Then they're going to go back to the template area, and they're going to click on the mic. But SeeSaw also has a really neat way to use keyboard shortcuts to show the actual icons that they use. So if you have those students who need visual help, this works great. So I'm going to say click on mic, and then I would put in my other directions, which will be on the full activity that I'm going to have linked to my blog, which is yours for free when I complete the whole thing. So you can add voice instructions. Here is where I'm going to record my voice. And the only place you actually have audio recording is in the part that's called drawing. I'm not going to draw anything right now. I'm just going to click this. And right now I'm going to talk because I kind of have allergies acting up. But the one that I am actually going to share with you, I will be singing. I'm just not in voice right now. But you can hear that I'm going to be talking, I'm going to be talking, I'm going to be talking. Then I click pause. And I'm done. And I'm done again. So now you can see that there's an example attached. If I wanted to do voice instructions, here's the microphone for that. You could actually redo the instructions and have you sing into the instructions. But the nice thing for using it as the example is they can replay it over and over if they need to. Here is the template. Here's the neat part. So first of all, I am actually going to upload an image file. And down here, you can either choose from your Google Drive, or you can choose from your computer. So I've got one I'm going to choose here. It looks small for right now, but when I click on the check mark, it's actually bigger. So the first thing I'm going to have them do is sing, which obviously I'm not going to do. But when you click on these three little dots, you can actually make shapes that they can click and drag. So I'm going to make it sort of like note heads. You can duplicate it. I have 4 pitches. My pattern, let's say, is so, mi, do, so. Actually, it's 5, I believe. So you can line those up. You can choose to identify them. I wouldn't, because I've indicated where do is. It's up to them to put a circle where the rest of it is in the order of the pattern. So the first note would have been do, mi, so, la, and do. Adjust them accordingly so that things fit. So I would actually do this more of an oval. And you can change the color of it. if you so choose, have time to play around with it. But we want to move them back. You can type on it. I mean, you could label them if you want to, just like that showed there. But we're just going to move them back. And we're going to click on the green check mark and click Save down here. Now I'm going to assign this. I'm going to assign it to the cool class. Here I can edit students. Let's say, for instance, my sample student doesn't need this because they're advanced. I could do something more complicated with more pitches or something. Let's say I need to do a reteach or teach in a different manner for somebody else. I could do a different assignment for them. You can also make folders for all your activities. So for instance, I've already put this in a folder called Solfege. To create a folder, you just click this, pick a color, give it a name, and click your check mark. So let's just say this is rhythm. And I'm going to make it brown. So now I've got another folder for rhythm, which is really makes things more organized when you start having a lot of activities. And you can do skills if you've got the pro version. And in the skills, that's what you're going to be looking for, like your rubric or your checklist. You can pick more than one for a particular assignment. And it allows you to have a range. So let's say I'm going to do, I'm assessing oral training, even though this isn't the right oral training that I want to do. I click the check mark, and now I've got a skill in the folder and my student, and I'm going to assign it. I could also schedule it. In the left-hand corner, there's a place where you could schedule it. So if you want to make a batch and you don't want them to pop up all at the same time, you could schedule them. So I'm going back, and now it shows up under the activities. Does not show up in the journal for my sample student. This is something that they did before. But now I'm going to have the sample student do this activity. So I'll click on activity. There's my activity, at least a little like a thumbnail of it. I'm going to click add response. Click my microphone. Do, mi, so, la, so, mi, do. And I told you I had allergies, but that's okay. Now I get to click. Oh, to click and drag, you've got to click the finger down here. Look at that. And now I can click and drag. They click done. It's uploading. And now it shows up. Here is where I can do a like, which I usually did if I felt they did an outstanding job. I can make a comment. You sang one too many syllables, but you marked it correctly. Nobody can see this, but well, they can see it. They actually can see it. So if it's something that's really not complimentary, I would probably talk to them one-on-one. But I could leave a private note to myself saying needs reinforcement, so that I have a note to myself so that I know to go back and check on them. Here's where I can leave the scale. I gave them let me see, 2 stars. No, I'm going to give them 3 stars. I honestly don't have my rubric set up, but you could. And click the check mark, and maybe you had another skill there that applied to this. You would have that loaded up, and you would put down how many points they got on that. And then, of course, it shows up here on the folder. So SeeSaw is pretty super. And if you go to Dr. Stafford's Musical Cures, under the post about SeeSaw, at the end of the post, there is going to be a link to the full-blown version of this activity that you can download and have handy for your own students. Take care. Please be safe. And I'll see you at another video. Bye-bye.